Whoa. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's webinar for IT Documentation Users Group. Today's going to be a lot of fun. Veronica, our Chief Marketing Officer, started having lots of ideas about how cool it could be. We're trying some new technology, streaming live to YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. So please bear with us as we play with toys for the first time. We have a lot in store for you. So first of all, this is a presentation for IT Documentation Users Group. You do not have to be a member to see this webinar, but I did want to tell you a little bit about it and our audience for who we're teaching to. ITDUG is a Facebook group. It is members only, fb.com/groups/ITDUG, as it's spelled on the screen. A little bit about our history. We were originally founded in May of 2018 by Tracy Harden, who owns an MSP, Next Century Technologies. She originally created ITDoc at the time to help her connect with peers using IT Glue because she was lost at figuring out how all this stuff works. She found a great community there. Things were getting a little overwhelming, and she invited myself to help her co-admin the group in August of 2018. And we decided to break out away from IT Glue into all platforms so that we could get more brains, more people in the mix, discussing more ideas regardless of what tool we implemented in it. And as you see, it's been growing great ever since. Please keep inviting because the more brains we have in the group, the more we can post questions, answer questions, and help each other out. Just a little bit about myself and why I run ITDUG. We do work for MSPs and IT services firms. We consult them on their strategy, processes, which involves a lot of documentation, as well as offer hiring and screening services and run a community of processes and other documentation ideas. So we felt it was a great match that we could actually offer something to the community. Now, today we have OITVoIP or OITVoIP. We call them OITVoIP internally because it makes us laugh. And we invited Ray on. Ray also has owned an MSP, I believe still does. And he is the CEO of OITVoIP, providing a voice over IP services and white label, I believe. And you can correct me, Ray, on these details. But he and I are part of an MSP vendors chat. Us vendors get together, we talk about you guys and what's going on. And at a past webinar, and I've also heard this MSP vendors, somebody called Ray the king of process. And I was like, wait a minute, I've got the yellow jacket. So one thing led to another, and here we are. We're going to have a little showdown today to really find out who the king of process is. And so that's what the premise of today is to see between Ray and I, who's got what it takes when it comes to process and documentation. Welcome, Ray.
Thanks for having me, Alan. I appreciate it.
Awesome. I think we're going to invite Adam up on stage to kind of MC this event and keep me from cheating.
Ray, if you wanted to give a brief intro or say anything about what OITVoIP does, or OITVoIP as we say.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the CEO and founder of OITVoIP, UCaaS provider for MSPs, IT service providers. So whether it's channel partner or white label program and a migration path from one to the other, or even if you just want to know how to run your own stuff, regardless of what we're doing. Happy to help out. I've been doing, started the MSP in 2011, but I've been doing IT engineering for a little over 25 years. So he's been a major part of the MSP community, as well as a moderator on our MSP, frequent contributor on MSP Geek and MRU. We shuttered MSP services in around 2017. We still have a very, very, very few select clients that are MSP clients today, but haven't taken new ones since 2017. And yeah, I'm all about process and procedure and hoping I can hold my own, because I know Alan was nervous, but this is your home turf. So
I do want to corroborate that Ray is out there in the MSP community all the time. Give. And that's why I'm so excited to go up against you and have a little friendly competition and see if our knowledge can help others.
Absolutely. I'm excited too.
Alrighty. Welcome to the Process Showdown, aka the Thunderdome from the chat. Everybody's getting excited. Today, Alan and Ray are competing for the title of Process Champion, or the King of Process. How it'll work is I'll give a question, and we'll have each contestant answer. We'll switch off in between questions. So Alan will answer first, then Ray, then Alan. So we'll switch back and forth. And each contestant would be given 60 seconds to give their response. And then we'll move on to the next contestant. And then during that, we're going to have the audience voting in the chat. But at the very end, we're going to have them do a swift poll and see who the overall champion is. So make sure to be active in chat there. And then Veronica will display where that poll is going to actually be during the showdown. Let's see if I covered everything. Yep. So the premise of this was process questions related back to our ITDUG group. So we've been talking about how to start processes. So there's going to be kind of a focus on that, and then how to evaluate them as well. So we're going to go down into that here. Let's see. Yeah, so I think we're ready to start. Veronica might put up a timer, but I'm going to ask the first question. I'm going to start with Ray. So Ray, how did you choose your documentation platform, and what factors were considered when you chose it?
So our documentation platform has evolved over the years. We had internal stuff like SharePoint sites and wikis. Eventually went to Confluence. Now we use a product called Delevio. Our documentation platform, because we serve our white label partners too, I wanted to make sure something that was scalable, easily searchable, indexable, had process for tags, multiple security levels, and a very good search, because at the end of the day, if you can't find it, it doesn't matter. Wanted to make sure we could account for stuff like what users were making modifications to what documents, so we could go back and see version history, so we could see the document's evolution over time. And that went to part of the process we do yearly, where we actually go and review all our documents to make sure they're current, because old documentation is useless documentation, in my opinion. So, those are the things you really want to look for if you have integrations with your platforms, especially for the MSP community, whether it's your RMM or your PSA. You want to make sure those integrations there so you have the good data you need. I think I ended at 0.
Wow, moving straight to it. I'm waiting for the timer to start. All right, how do you choose a documentation platform? My answer's, how did I choose? Back in the day when I first chose a documentation platform, it was honestly the only platform special built at that time that I even knew about. And so we chose it because I tend to value quick decision making over spending hours and hours and days factoring all the opinions, for better or worse. And even in more recent systems, I tend to stick with a system that I know for more rapid implementation. Factors to be considered, Ray nailed it. Searchability to me is the biggest and best reason. How quickly can you find data? How easy is it to structure? But as I teach, any documentation system that you use will do. Just document how you use it, what the structure is, and that will help everybody find something. So no matter where you are, you can be successful in documentation. So just choose one and use it.
All right. You guys might be too good at this. I had a follow-up question that was just like, are you both still using your original platform? But I think you both answered that we've moved on and improved and gone on to other platforms. I also saw something in the chat that was saying, what was the name of the platform that you were using? If you guys want to plug in what you're using.
You want to go first, Ray?
Yeah, sure. I use Elevio, ELEV.io. Help Juice is another one I really like. It's awesome because it gives the ability to have public facing as well as internal stuff, and you can have security in between. I hold not only my staff to reading the documentation, but also our clients to being able to access and review the documentation. So it serves both needs.
Very good. I started out pretty early on in IT Glue. One of its early adopters, probably coming straight from just storing Word documents in a SMB folder structure before that. And to this day, working with MSPs, I'm seeing a lot of IT Glue, Hoodoo, SharePoint, OneDrive, Confluence. I'm probably in one of those 5 systems every day, if that helps.
Alrighty. All right, we'll move on to the next question, and Alan will be answering first on this one.
Ooh.
So this question is, what are the best practices for creating a documentation structure that make it searchable? So kind of Ray touched on this. What makes things easier to find?
Okay. To make a document structure, the number one thing is everybody in your organization has to agree upon it. That means writing documentation about your documentation structure. We call it the process here at Eureka process. That's number one. And when we've built our templates for that, we've tried to take into considerations things that have stymied us in the past, so it doesn't happen in the future. So as you're doing it, keep in mind what the capabilities of your documentation platform are. Are there fields that exist in your documentation that are searchable? Are there fields that are not searchable? And when somebody is looking for that documentation, what will they be involved in when it happens? So you kind of have to predict where they're going to be. One great example also is taking your ticketing system, if you're talking about technical documentation, and providing a link when, ticket type equals this or issue equals this, link to this document in your documentation platform. It's a great way to make it very easy to find things.
Alrighty.
Did I win?
Ray's up next. Same question.
All right. Yeah. So, I mean, with me, it starts, everything's about process, procedure, structure, right? So we actually have a doc on how to create a doc, which is a little meta, but it includes stuff like how the header should be, how you should add tags, all that stuff, how you should structure the document, how you decide what category goes to and what security permissions. That level of uniformity means that when you're searching for stuff, you're always going to find it in the same fashion, which gets you faster adoption because you're not trying to figure out how to interpret the doc. It's the same thing over and over. And then we have a 2-step review process because you can have the subject matter expert create the doc, but if the junior can't read it, can't understand it, or can't get to it, it's going to be useless. So we always have a 2nd-step review process to make sure they can follow those same steps, make sure they can use it. And then the last step is checking. You never get it right the first time. So when we work our tickets, we actually have what doc you used. And if you can't find a doc, we ask what search terms did you use so that our doc person can go in and see if the search terms applied or need to be added or if the doc needs to be amended.
All right. Oops, I lost my doc here. Hold, please.
What documentation system are you using?
Don't worry about it.
Ray, you're giving great answers, man.
You are too, man. This is close. I don't know how which way this is going to go.
I have so many follow-up questions, but I'm afraid the questions are next. And for the record, I kept asking my team to let me know what the questions were ahead of time, and they kept ignoring my messages. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah, didn't get those. Alrighty, we'll move on to the next question, and Ray will answer first.
Good luck.
So the next question is, what methods encourage team buy-in for a new process? What do you use?
So with us, it's all about coaching, coaching, setting expectations, and discipline thereafter. There was always consequences, good or bad. We set the expectation at hiring that you are going to use these documents. It's going to be an expectation. And then to make sure the adoption of the documents, we make sure that when a question is asked, our teams are coached to not give the answer, but to ask, which doc are you referencing? Where did you try to find that answer? That will highlight to us if a document exists and maybe they couldn't find it, or if the person maybe needs to be coached into actually looking for documentation, or maybe a document needs to be created. And we have a process for that too. But creating your whole culture around requiring the use of documentation. And I always say, we have a saying that I have a ton of RAISMs, but one of them is documentation, not judgment. I don't want to sit there and say, we did it this time because it may be different next time. I want it done the same every time. When everybody buys into that and it's just a core of your company culture, you're going to find it becomes second nature to say, we don't have a doc here. Let's create a doc. What does the doc say? Actually have what the fox says, but what the doc says. And you start, you just over and over, and repetition just drills it into you like any other habit. It works out really well.
Went over on time there. Questionable, but that's okay.
Minus 5 points.
All right. Alan, what methods encourage team buy-in for a new process?
Well, first off, I'm just jealous that Ray has Rayisms, because we came up with SH exclamation point T, Alan says. So maybe Ray has the cooler name for that one. But team buy-in, to me, you have to get them involved in the decision-making process, especially if you're just beginning to roll out or trying to enforce processes and documentation. When you're creating this structure, this meta knowledge that both Ray and I talked about before, get them involved in creating the process. Get their feedback. Whenever possible, take their feedback and use it, because now they're bought in. They're like, hey, coworker, I helped make this. You should follow it too. That really helps the culture of documentation and process. I think that's the biggest point. And then the next thing is, to me, when you manage employees, there's only 2 things to manage. Do they meet your core values, and do they follow processes? And so anytime you have a discrepancy, an issue, a client challenge, you're only asking if they followed the process or not. And if they did, and the outcome wasn't what you wanted, you simply managed and fixed the process together. Nailed my timer.
Well, you had the timer on the screen, so I don't know if I count that, but no, but that you bring up an excellent point. I just want to add to, it doesn't have to count toward my answer, but in our company with our management, I do not allow my management to counsel any employee unless there's a document that the employee had a problem following. If the document doesn't exist, that's a management problem. If the document existed, the employee didn't follow it, that's an employee problem. But that is the baseline for us across the organization.
Absolutely. And it's actually quite difficult to get people who are so used to putting out fires and reacting to take a moment and always bring it back to the paper, bring it back to the documentation. And what a place to work where you have clear expectations in writing on how it's supposed to go.
Agreed 100%. Yeah.
All right. Next question. I believe Alan will answer first on this next one. Question number 4. Making Veronica work here. She's flipping back and forth. When does a document need to be updated, and by whom?
My answer is consistent and unpopular. A document needs to be updated continuously at any given time. And I personally believe by anyone who's reading it and following it. The assumption is you've hired the people that you trust to work at your company, and they have a certain set of skills. So if somebody's reading through a document, as they should, up on the screen, working on something, internal process, technical process, and something's not quite lining up, I am going to trust them to edit that document or to get help editing that document to make it happen. Ray also mentioned earlier about having revision controls. Most good documentation systems these days do have revision history. And so when I see something with a great revision history, it's like, you know what? Change it. Let us know. We can always roll it back if we need to. That's going to be a great way to get them to live and breathe in the document, knowing that they can just edit it and tweak it as they go each time. So they have that continuous improvement process. On the nose again for my time.
Great job. All right. Same question, Ray?
So we do it in 2 different stages. So one, like the aforementioned, we have a yearly review. We have somebody assigned specifically to the training and documentation department. Her job is to go through those documents yearly and make sure they're up to date. She's also the one that's doing the second stage review to make sure they adhere to our standards and they're clear and concise. But also because they're being used every single day, as they're being used, if something's off, we don't have documentation created by one person. Everyone in the organization is in charge with creating documentation and modifying it. So it happens daily. These documentations are living subjects. So it'll happen daily. I'll see in teams while working something and somebody will say, we need to tweak this a little bit to make it more clear. And they'll use that same ticket time and they'll fix the doc right there and then. So documents are constantly reviewed, and then they have a formal review yearly, which works really well in tandem.
All right. You had a little bit of extra time in the bank, so you made up for last time.
Oh, thanks.
All right. Good answers there. Our last and final question. Ray will answer this one, then Alan, and then we'll open up polling after that. So the last question is, how do you determine who will administer your documentations organization? So if someone was going to oversee it, be in charge of it, be the manager, be the one that's making sure you're following your standards, who would that be? And how do you determine who they are?
So we actually have a dedicated person. We have a training and documentation department. That's her role. She was assigned that. Well, she chose to do it. She wanted to do it. We actually had 2 employees that wanted the role. She's the one that went out on it. But she's actually worked in every department. She's worked in. She's done training. She's done project management. And because of those skill sets, she's suited to oversee all documentation across every department in the org. Now, that doesn't mean she's the one most capable of creating the documentation. Part of our process when we do training is that the subject matter expert will train the junior on how to do it. The junior will take the notes on everything, and then the junior will be the one to create the documentation. And that helps because that makes the junior the subject matter expert going forward as well. It's an awesome teaching tool. So really at the end of the day, Marissa's job is just ensuring it adheres to our standards and it's clear, but she doesn't have to worry about creating the docs normally.
All right. Sounds kind of made up that you had 2 employees that wanted to do documentation. That seems kind of crazy to me, but okay.
All right. Wait for my timer to start.
Yep.
And go. Yeah, we have a title called Documentation Czar because we like to use the letter Z or Z, depending on where you're from, somewhere in the accountability chart. Documentation czar does not have to be a full-time role. It can be quite part-time, depending on your size. Not everybody has 2 employees capable to devote to that. Good job, Ray. Also, keep in mind, what does administration mean? Are you just keeping documents organized, but who's also responsible for controlling security and rights? A lot of documentation platforms also control passwords that the administrator might have access to. So those are considerations, and so this is not a clear answer. I love the idea Ray has that somebody needs to keep the structure in place, look for rogue documents that haven't been updated or accessed in years, or to even put somebody in charge of running your documentation committee meetings, which you should absolutely have. And that might be a great nominee for your documentation czar. And while I'm at it, committee meetings, you might start out an hour a week, but as you get your house in order, hopefully you can get it down to about 35 minutes every 2 weeks.
All right. That was our final question so far. You guys can enter in a chat who you think is winning so far, but we will actually display a poll. Again, want to thank Veronica for throwing all this up and working on the back end. She's doing great. So you can go to swiftpolling.com and enter the code 14795, or you can send a vote via text. Just like you would on American Idol or something. Text your vote to 205-883-8760. Text 1 for Ray and 2 for Alan. So the votes that you put into Swift Polling will be for who is the champion here today.
Ooh, now what happens to the loser? The first place loser.
The first loser. I don't know. We haven't decided yet, have we?
I think the loser has to go back and review the winner's documentation for a week or something.
You know what? I might enjoy that.
Right. Sadly, I think I would too, though.
Very good. Very good. So I'm sure we can take questions from the audience as well. So feel free to have those coming in. Ray, in a lot of your experience that you have now, you've done a great job, and you've grown to have a nice size of staff that I'm hoping to achieve. Myself in this business. What about for the little guy? Like, how did you get started back when you were 3-4 employees like us? So I guess, sorry to Sri and Alfonso, who we hired in the last week. We're at 6 employees.
This is awesome. Congrats.
It's going crazy here. So how do you get started at the small size? When do you start, and how do you get going?
So, this is my 7th round of businesses. I've been doing this a long time. So yeah, I had the benefit of learning from a lot of others, surrounded by a lot of other entrepreneurs. And they taught me very early on process and procedures, what allows you to scale. I talked about this to other MSPs almost daily of today, I have the benefit of 30 people. I can go after this. I may go after this, grab a beer and play some Call of Duty for an hour before I go do my next thing. I have more free time because I have the benefit of staff. When you're smaller, you can't do that. You're wearing 15 different hats on a good day. So that makes it even more important to make sure you have your documentation in place. And what happens is, it happens to everybody. It happened to me too. I'm there and I need to expand because I'm swamped with things and I want to hire somebody. And then you go say, well, I'm going to hire somebody, then what am I going to give them to do? Because I don't know how to train them. I don't have the time to train them because I have to do all these other things. So thankfully I learned early on, document everything. I love traction. I love, there's other, tools that go along with this. I think you guys are a traction shop. But document all the roles that your company eventually needs and document what their responsibilities are. And since I had done that, plus documenting the duties every day, duty, yeah, I know I'm 12. But when I hired somebody, I was able to say, here's documentation. This is what you're doing. And if you don't know how to do it, when I train you, you're going to create documentation, and you just rinse, repeat every role we created. And it just becomes this behemoth that makes it so much easier to bring on staff. And if you want to learn how to get breathing time, create documentation, as ridiculous as it sounds. Drew, I love Drew, man.
And Ray, while I completely agree with you, and that is absolutely the best advice, I also like to give a little piece of contrary advice. If you are a one-man shop, there is a limited ROI on the documentation you create. And it's a tough line to follow, but think about what's actually going to be followed again before it changes in those cases. Because if you're trying to get to employee number 2, what does employee number 2 need? And if it's not going to be any time in the next year, maybe you don't need to document it at least as tightly. Now, as soon as you say, I'm going to hire somebody, you darn well better get their task list together. That's HR 06 in our community. And you darn well better start writing those processes so they can easily hand them off. Last point, I promise, and we'll bring Ray back on, is if you hire somebody and you just haven't had the time to document, not shame on you, because we don't have shame here. We do the best we can with the information we have at the time. Have them write the documentation as you're training. Do not skip that step at that point, because it's too late. That's your last and best chance to get it done if it hasn't been done already. I know we're all imperfect.
I love that.
Question for Ray on why you're not using Hoodoo anymore.
So I am using Hoodoo. I also started, I actually was, I think, one of the first 50 users of IT Glue back in the day. And I used IT Glue, and I absolutely hold nothing against them. Fantastic product. However, I've been an enormous proponent of Hoodoo. I've been accused of being an investor. I'm not, but I have tons of videos on my website, on YouTube, on installing Hoodoo and using Hoodoo, and done technical deficits. I'm a huge fan of Hoodoo for internal documentation of assets. That's how we use it. If I was an MSP, I might be more likely to use it for outward-facing documentation, because Hoodoo does have that facility, and they're getting better and better. I mean, they're going to release soon the new text editor and stuff like that, which is fantastic. So it's no longer based on Gutenberg or whatever. But my problem with IT Glue is IT Glue doesn't have a good structure process. There is no this tier, then this tier, then this tier, and there's no hierarchy. It is share this one doc. So for that reason, even in IT Glue, when we had it, we use IT Glue for our sync with the RMA and the RMM and the PSA, and then we use Confluence for our actual process documentation. So today that just carries over. We use Alevio for the process documentation. We use Hoodoo for the asset documentation. Not something I'm saying every MSP should do. That's just what works for us.
And I wouldn't put it past Ray to make any system successful by developing that structure and culture. I would love to address the last comment there. Alan finished more of his questions on time. I literally have about 7 55-minute Zoom calls per day. I have gotten very good at being on time. Because if I go over, I can't pee, I can't drink coffee, I can't have lunch. That's a skill. That's indeed into me.
Yeah, I was going to say that's pretty common for us.
I mean, so if I may say, like, if I may whine a bit, for 2 of the questions, I didn't see the timers. So, like, I just saying, no, you know what? That's just a testament for how good you are at process, Alan, that you're able to keep it to the second. That's actually really impressive.
All right. If anybody hasn't voted, please go to that Swift poll and enter that. We have one final bonus question for the both of you. I think we'll start with Alan here. This is, what is the most recent process that you've created from scratch?
Great question. It's probably in the finance department because we just brought on Alfonso last week. And I was like, I need to show you this. Oh, wait, this was in my head. I apologize. And I wrote the process for, I wrote the process for Profit First for us. I mean, no, we didn't follow his book perfectly. But we took our own system out of it. I did have ticket templates firing automatically. And I wrote that process, handed it to Alfonso so that he could do it. And I've actually been very impressed. Alfonso, who's listening in the green room, he's already created like 3 or 4 more documents in the finance department. Brand new role. First time we've had a person in that department besides me. So I'm happy that it's already growing, already creating more SOPs. I bet that was 60 seconds too, Ray. Man.
Ray, you're muted.
I actually created a button on my Stream Deck to do a countdown so that I didn't have that excuse anymore. So, believe it or not. So I winced a little bit when he asked the question of what the last document was. I was joking with Alan and others in our vendor Slack. My last document was actually the press release for having won this event. So, and then the last real process I wrote before that, we're playing, Tom Lawrence had done a thing on Tailscale, which is WireGuard, a commercial implementation of it. I had created a document on how to use Tailscale, installing it on Ubuntu. This is what our documentation looks like. So yeah, that was the one I did, I think, day before yesterday. I had created it.
Great.
Yeah, I cried a little when I saw that fake news on the MSP vendors chat. Gotta talk to the moderator about that.
I can't have a process showdown without a document declaring the win. I mean, just in case, It's like the Grammys. You have your speech prepared in advance just in case.
Very good. Wait, we're supposed to prepare? As Veronica coached me earlier today when I was freaking out with back-to-back meetings, including this one, she was like, Alan, you do this for a living. You'll be fine. Like, oh, okay. She did suggest I comb my hair, which I failed at.
Let's see. We were waiting on the Swift poll. Veronica, did we have a winner declared yet? I'm just waiting for feedback on that. Let's see.
I'm reading through some comments now. Ray, how many monitors do you have?
At home, I have 2 34-inch wide. They're 21 by 9 that are side by side with a 42-inch above. That's a standard 4.3. And then I have, or not 4.3, it's a 16.9. And then at my office, I have 2 49-inch widescreen, curved. All my monitors are curved. And then plus the laptop monitor for reference. And then I do have a teleprompter that I use sometimes.
Holy cow. Little studio.
Yeah, well, it's kind of what I do here.
I actually knew that about you. I always ask Ray for all my studio advice. I'm now running two ultra wide 49 inches, but one has the 1000R curve and one has the 1800R curve.
Oh, does that drive you nuts? The difference in curves?
Especially how much better the 1000R is. I was surprised at the difference that it made. Of course,
Huge
the
difference,
monitor,
much more closed.
Yeah, I don't have to lean over to see the corner of the screen.
Yep. Yeah, I have the 34s and 1000R or 1800R. The 49s are 1000Rs for that reason.
Yeah,
the 49 is a big difference. Like you will be doing this all day. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that 1000R, by the way, on the monitor stand you recommended, I can't get it to stay put because it's too much weight further out from the focal point.
That's wow. Okay, good to know. Do you have that documented anywhere?
I do actually. It's in the MSP vendors chat to you.
That's true. You absolutely did.
This morning I was talking to Suri about monitors, and he was like, I don't know, the 49-inch monitor seems kind of excessive. I was just like, wait till you use it, and then you'll be like, okay, this makes sense.
That's the thing. Like with the exception of one of my MSP buddies, everybody I talked to and I actually, this wasn't unique. I actually got this from Andrew Kaiser over at Huntress. He was at OpenDNS at the time, but he told me about that mount that I told Alan about. But he had the dual 49s, and I was like researching, and he's like, just do it. You're going to love it. Just do it. And everybody that does it, they're like, oh yeah, it's a game changer for sure.
I was trying hard to reduce my monitor count since working at an MSP firm. But two is fine. And by the way, I had my 49s with 2 inputs, so it's actually like 227 side by side most of the time, unless I'm in Call of Duty mode. But what I found was during these types of calls, I have to present something, I have to see my feed, and I need my notes or my presenter tools. So I ended up having to have that third monitor. So why not 4?
That's the thing. And if you're using ultra wides, the best thing I can recommend is Microsoft Power Toys, Windows Power Toys. It's been around for like over a decade. But the latest release that's on their GitHub has Windows Fences, which lets you cut up. I mean, a lot of the big monitors already come with their own apps, but I love Windows Fences because you can cut it up however you want. So for Tech Bar, I have a 50-50 split, 50 on the left, and then it's split again 50-50 top and bottom on the right for our show notes and all the other stuff. But my regular workday, I have a 70% for my main screen for Chrome, and then 30% for my socials and OneNote, and then other screens split up differently. It's awesome being able to switch like that. I
mean, I do believe I saw a notification that we have a winner, Adam, sadly. Or happily. I'm trying to get a hint from you, Adam. Sadly, happily? Huh?
We do have a winner. Veronica was going to display the thing, but we're having technical difficulties with that. It was very close, I would say.
It's going to be Brooke. Watch.
Yeah, Brooke won. Come on out, Brooke. Ray won by 53%, so he edged out that 6% there. So, yeah.
Good job, Ray.
So I have a speech prepared. It's only 5 or 6 pages, so give me a minute.
Put the timer on.
I mean, seriously though, I love the feedback back and forth, and thank you for having me on, Alan and team. Like seeing other people as excited about documentation as I am, that's the real win. And like seeing all these chats where obviously everybody in here is as excited about documentation as we are, that's phenomenal. That's the real win here.
Absolutely, and I think what should happen here is the winner should teach the not winner more about process, which has kind of already happened today. But I gotta go take some more notes from you and ping you some more in our Slack channel.
I'll teach you about process if you teach me about timeliness. How's that?
Easy. Click Rover. Done. Quick note on timeliness. As soon as you actually end the meeting on time, even when people don't want to listen to you, they get the hint next time.
Yeah, that's true.
Where'd Alan go? He said time was up. He's gone.
Yeah, when you're the host, then you just leave the meeting and it just ends.
Almost as bad. Any more cool comments or questions? Drew's been giving some good stuff in here.
Drew's one of my favorite people. Like, besides he's frequently joining on the tech bar after we have an after party. And Alan, you've been on the tech bar. That was a good time.
There's an after party.
There's an after party that goes on. Kelvin stayed the longest. Our longest tech bar was 6 hours. Our longest after party. I'm sorry?
Was that the first one?
That was the first one. Our longest after party, Kelvin left at 7 a.m. his time. And I think we stayed up till 3 or 4 in the morning, something like that, Eastern.
Why?
We just have fun. Like, we had Jason McGee join. We have like a ton of people from Geek join. Like, and we just hang out and have fun. It's awesome.
Wow. So I was guest number 2 on the tech bar, I believe.
Really? Wow.
And I was actually trying not to drink that week just for weight loss reasons. And you guys were not having it. And I caved, and I had my stepdaughter bring me some tequila. And then loose lips and start happening about hour 2.
That was a fun show. Yeah, it's like putting a Dunkin' Donuts next to a Weight Watchers. It's a bad idea. But, but it was good fun. And you get to learn about people, and it's that social context that I think we all missed from conferences last year, right? Like that's the big deal. So
very good. So as we move toward wrap up, and Adam, I don't know if there's more housekeeping to do or not. My goal here is I don't like ITDUG to be a sales pitch, and we've done a good job for that. I'm just curious if people like your personality and who you are and how you think. How can they engage more with OITVoIP or yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm on everywhere. OIT_Ray on Reddit and Discord. MRU on MSP Geek, actually the same thing. I'm all over those. YouTube.com/OITVoIP or LinkedIn.com/OITVoIP. Literally any social you're in, I'm there. Just find me or hit us up, OIT.co. Always doing stuff for the community. Also, we do this whole selling VoIP stuff for MSPs, helping them be more profitable. But honestly, that's the sales team's job. My job is just, I love the community aspect of it. So if anybody ever has any questions about, or wants to pick my brain about my experiences, happy to have that conversation. I love what the MSP community has done in the last 10 years, the way that's grown. So I'm happy to be part of it.
Very good. Do we have any other business, Adam, Veronica? I'm checking top secret chats to see what they're telling me as well.
We have some more time, probably like 10 minutes before a wrap up. So we could bring in other people, answer any questions that anybody has in the chat. So yeah, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I should say.
Cool.
I love Drew's comment. The day I can give up all my monitors will be a happy day. That's fantastic.
I took a picture on the way out of the last MSP I worked for. I was a service manager, and I think I counted 7 monitors. I cheated a little bit. I counted the giant display we had on our IP phone, and I also had the dashboard up, also in plain sight of a single photo frame on top of the 5 other monitors that I had. And back then we had 17s and 21s, and I used reams of paper to make them at the right heights.
Well, because there weren't any good mounts back then. Like, you were using like the desk mount, or you were like getting creative with it. Yeah. I don't know if you're like my thing is, I always have, and this has been the trick to me for multiple monitors for a long time. I always have the exact same apps in the same places on all the monitors. So my Outlook is always here, and my my screen, my reference Chrome here, my main Chrome here, my socials over here, my dashboard's up top. I'm saying this like you can see where I'm pointing to, right? Like I may be pointing out the emergency exits or something, but whatchamacallit, but like it just, and it goes back to that process and procedure stuff, right? Like if you're always doing the same thing, you're always looking for the same places. Like I'm that creature of habit with, my keys in my left pocket, my wallet behind me, my cell phone on the right. I don't have to worry about those little decisions. It just makes life that much faster.
That's a type of process. It's just more of a unwritten process.
Yeah, I love it. Speaking of process, I see Simon asking, is it okay if we share some of the upcoming events we have? Would you mind?
I'm fine. I think Veronica and Simon have keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, we do. So one of the things I'm very proud that we actually do a ton of community events. So, we have tomorrow with Rob Ray of Datto, actually OITVoIP or youtube.com/OITVoIP. We're doing a partner first. We do these a couple times a month. We'll be at Channel Pro SMB Forum in Boston, 9/2. We have another partner first featuring Heather K. Margolis to Spark Your Channel. And then the always fun Tech Bar featuring Rob Ray on the 9th and the 15th, Cisco Elevate. They have the beautiful and super intelligent Michelle McBain invited us to be the after party, the happy hour show for the Cisco Elevate event for them. So that'll be fun. And then MSP Geek with Kelvin will be on twitch.tv/MSP Geek tonight at 6:30 p.m. That's not an OIT event. That's just a community thing, but absolutely join because it's fun. So
very cool. There's so much happening. I do have a follow-up question. It's selfish, but I think it will help everybody. How are in-person venues going these days? I personally can't travel right now because I am a seeking permanent residency in Canada as a U.S. citizen, and I can't travel.
Yeah,
how is it?
Canada's been an interesting one. We have an employee in Toronto, and he couldn't even travel like at all. Like we were trying to do company events, we were trying to do stuff, even when it was more reasonable, and it was just he wasn't allowed to leave. And even now he doesn't want to. So, which I completely get. We're going. We're taking necessary precautions. We have, besides whatever organization mandates are in place, we have company-wide mandates as well, as far as how we handle things. But we were just at was it Channel Partners, I think, in San Antonio last week. I wasn't there. Simon, Sean, and Chaz, one of our technicians, were there, our technical services manager, and it was really good audience. It was we've been going to several ASCII events. They're well attended. So people are going. I don't know if that'll keep steam, but I will say that, people are attending these events for now, and they're enjoying themselves. And we're seeing a lot of hybrid stuff. So I'm hoping the hybrid stays, honestly.
Very good. I know the early days, some of the virtual events needed some maturity, but I mean, heck, we've been doing trade shows for decades. And these virtual events are a relatively new thing, so it's going to take some time to mature.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's always a work in progress. But, it gives you I like the hybrid because the people that want to go in person absolutely can go. But, you can't do the crazy thing. Like we are taking the entire company to IT Nation this year. We're renting some houses and maybe a party bus. But that's not typically normal for any size MSP. So for the ones that have to stay back, having recorded content or having stuff they can attend virtually to make time for, that's an important thing. So, I hope that stays up.
And we were actually trying to have our first in-person meetup for our company, since we're all remote all around the world. But worldwide travel is still restricted. So our U.S. team is going to represent us at DattoCon and IT Nation for learning, not as a vendor. And our worldwide team will join virtually.
I love that. More participation, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved these events. Networking first, as I'm a people person, but then the education you get, just a chance to sit down, sharpen the saw, learn new things, attend webinars like this. We should do this at IT Nation one year. Oh,
that would be awesome.
Little battle royale.
I'm totally down for that. I was working. Unfortunately, Callan moved on from ConnectWise, so I'm working with his replacement, or the person serving in his replacement, because nobody replaces Callan. But working with them to see what we can do at IT Nation, because it'll be fun. But yeah, doing something live would be definitely an interesting and fun experience.
Especially if we can actually do like boxing shorts and a ring and some gloves and throw real punches.
I know Veronica was I had pointed out in our pre-meeting of a championship belt I was going to have custom made with documentation champion on it. And Veronica said she had ordered one, like, for you, but unfortunately there was some order error with Amazon. Stuff happens. But yeah, we could definitely get one going, and that would definitely be a blast.
Maybe every time you're over your timer, we get to throw a punch.
Or we could have audiences, come in and throw a live curveball, have them ask the questions.
Ooh,
so
better.
that would be, yeah.
I like it.
Could be a good time. And, or, every time you get a wrong answer or whoever's the loser of that question has to take a shot. I'm just saying that can make for a very interesting documentation experience.
That very well could. We actually got the inspiration for today from, I don't want to say their name wrong. I want to say it was Channel Pro. We were invited to participate in a masked consultant competition.
Interesting. Okay.
And so 3 of us joined, and we had to wear a mask, which is a challenge to give a video presentation with a microphone, with a mask on. And they asked 3 questions, and after they polled each one, they eliminated the least votes each time. I did win that one, but that was because that's because you weren't there. Apparently, so you get to take the belt, but it was a good idea and a lot of fun. I thank you for being here.
No, thank you for having me. This is always a good time.
All right, if we don't see any more questions come up in the last couple of seconds, we will go ahead and adjourn. Ray, thank you again. Veronica, thank you so much. I think she learned 3 new tools this week alone just to make this thing happen, and it went off pretty well. Thank you to Alfonso and Sri, who just joined our team in the last week. And they're like, why are you so busy today? It's like, this is why. This is why. And Brooke and Adam, thank you guys for always being there and keeping things going, even when we're busy or I'm busy. Even though, sorry, short story. As client asked for my time yesterday, he's like, hey, glad to help. I do have 2 people who can also help. I was sharing calendars, like, hey, mine's kind of busy, maybe Adam or Brooke. And then I realized that Brooke had no time either. And Adam didn't have much more time. So I was like, okay, good thing we got Alfonso and Sri on the team. It was good timing.
I definitely want to give kudos. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, everybody on your team. But yeah, I know Veronica was a little nervous about, I think this is your first event on StreamYard, right?
Yes.
So I think she did phenomenally well. So, kudos to her especially.
Oh, and thank you, Simon, from your team, who also joined in the green room, making things happen, answering our advice questions and going, nope, that's a dumb idea. Don't do it that way. Maybe that's just my questions. And I think we even shared some documentation back and forth, which is always fun to see for.
I love that. Yeah.
Meeting. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. The recording will be live shortly, and looking forward to seeing you next month at ITDUG or in many of the events that Ray or I will be in between. Mm-hmm. Have a great one.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye now.